Welcome to a journey through life, unwinding the path to Severus Snape, the man whose the story is intertwined with love and loss, darkness and redemption, sacrifice and secrets kept until the very end. Make yourself comfortable and let the words gently guide you through the intricacies of the soul that wandered between two worlds, never becoming native for one of them, but who changed both in a way that few could have imagined. Our story doesn't start with spells or ziri. It's from a little boy observing the world, dark eyes, and already learning that life rarely offers simple answers or easy ways. In the last years of the 60s, the Spider's dead end stood as a monument of industrial decline. Rows of brick, the houses huddled together as if old people looking for warmth. Their windows were soot from the factory that was once struggling the heart of the city. Now the factory was silent, and her huge pipe became a tombstone celebrating the death of prosperity. But dirt which she left behind, she clung to everything, to the walls, to the streets, to the very air that the young man breathed, nor Snape. The house was in a spider's dead end, narrow and tight, sandwiched between the same identical houses, through thin walls which leaked the sounds of life, quarrels and babies crying, bottles clinking, promising temporary oblivion. But in the last house on the street, where the road as it broke into the weave of blackberries and broken concrete, lived the despair of something else Rhoda. Here magic and poverty were intertwined so that it formed forever young boy's idea of the world. Tobias Snape was a man defeated life long before the birth of a son. Muggle, married to a sorceress, not understanding what this mean, he is trapped a world that could not comprehend. His wife could make the lights bloom in a whisper. She could fix the broken plates with a wave of her hand, and yet she couldn't magic drives them into poverty. Bitterness, this paradox, wandered around in him like wine turning into vinegar. Elin Prince once was someone. This name is something it meant in certain circles. Old, a magical family with roots that go away deep into the centuries of magical traditions. But she fell in love with a Muggle, and love, as soon as young Severus will find out, may be herself cruel magic. Rejected by the family for marriage is below her position, she found herself sandwiched between two worlds, unwanted in none. Boy, early I learned to read the weather in my home. Pooh, he could the sound of his father's steps on the stairs determine whether to hide in your room or risk going downstairs, because his mother's shoulders are down. He understood if she had the strength to show him the little miracles that were his birthright. On good days, she had taught him the name of plants in overgrown areas garden, whispering about their magical properties. On bad days, she I looked at the wall as if I could see it through her some better life slipped through my fingers. Severus discovered magic in the same way as most magical children, through emotions. He was 6 years old. He clenched into closet under the stairs, while voices parents rose and fell like terrible tide. Something crashed, and Severus closed his eyes, desperately wanting be somewhere else. When he opened his eyes, he was in the garden, not in what it really was, like overgrown with weeds, but the way it is could be. Flowers bloomed, impossible with paints. Their petals shimmered shades that didn't have names. For a moment, the world became beautiful. Then reality collapsed back, and I found myself in the closet again. But something changed. He felt the power flowing through it. He was special. He was a wizard. He was different from your father. After this, magic was given easier. When other children threw at him stones, calling your hair-covered and worn clothes, and stones were rolled into side. When he was hungry, the cans opened by themselves. When my father's character became violent, Severus discovered that he could become almost invisible in shadows. But magic couldn't fix everything. She couldn't force it father love him. She couldn't make a whole the woman his mother was before. Magic could not wash away the coal dust from the air or put food on the table when my father was baking money. Severus realized that there was no magic solving all problems. Sometimes it was just another thing that made you different. School was a special torture. Severus, with its strange intensity, and with old clothes, he was marked as an outcast with first day. He was too smart. Always I knew the answers, but he said them like this, with a grin that the teachers wanted from it is harmful to give it a low rating. Other children felt his otherness. They didn't know about magic, but they knew he was not one of them. His clothes smelled strange herbs. He muttered words which were not entirely English. Once cornered by the elder boys, he hissed at them like a snake, and they recoiled, suddenly frightened. Books became his refuge. The public library was a sanctuary of silence. He absorbed everything. Tales in which, like him, now suspected that the grains were contained truths. Science books that tried to explain the world he knew was much stranger. Knowledge was power, and he thirsted for strength more than anything else, except perhaps love, which always seemed unattainable. Mother watched how he grows with eyes in which he is equally pride and sadness mixed. Late at night she told him about the magic piece. She spoke of Harwot as for a place where it is honorable to be a wizard, where knowledge is valued and power is respected. She talked about the faculties that they became families, about feathers appearing as if by magic, our libraries filled with books of knowledge. "You will go there one day," she whispered, she smoothing his greasy hair with tender fingers. "You will study for real. You will become someone important, Severus." But in the grey light of the morning, to the snoring of my father and the smell fumes, such promises seemed ethereal, like smoke. How could he go to the magic school when they could barely afford your usual form? Reply came in glimpses of the wider mirror. Sometimes in their lonely ones wandering through the wasteland behind the spider dead end, he found the things he hadn't, there was no place. A flower that did not bloom in a season, whose petals shimmered like oil on water. An owl that had looked at him with smart eyes. A tiny dragon, no more than him, palms that breathed real fire before disappearing into a cloud of smoke from the smell of cinnamon. These signs told him that the other world is really waiting for him, but they also exacerbated his isolation. He couldn't share these with anyone. Miracles. Father would be furious. Children at school, they would ridicule him for lying or scared. Even the mother seemed to be leaving deeper into himself when he tried share discoveries. So Severus learned to keep secrets. He practiced magic in secluded places, abandoned mill, in an overgrown railway excavation, on the playground where the hooligans were afraid to walk after dark. He learned control by sampling and mistakes, healing bruises from unsuccessful ones' attempts at levitation, scouring the polished eyebrows after experiments with fire. Control became his obsession. If he can control his own magic, he will be able to control his own life. He trained to force objects, not easy to move with precision, wild bursts of spontaneous magic, but deliberate, focused intention. A pebble floating in perfect circles, a leaf dancing according to his will, water flowing upward despite gravity. That summer, when he turned 9, magical cases had become more common. Flowers, they bloomed in gardens that shouldn't exist, existed in Yorkshire. Cats, they gathered at the corners. The old women had begun whisper about a strange boy. Eileen, I noticed it with growing anxiety. She saw in the son the father's determination, united with magical abilities superior to her own. Honestly saying, she was a mediocre witch, but Severus had a power that caviar fell from it. She started prepare it more seriously for a world in which he'll come in. Late at night, while Tobias she snored in alcohol oblivion, she taught Severus what he needed to know. Magical etiquette, names of the sacred 28 families, which is correct hold the wand, theories of transfiguration, classifications of enchantments, dangers of dark ones' arts. "We never allow you to see you are weak," she said, forcing his gaze to meet her. "The magical world is not kind to those who shows vulnerability. Be strong, be smart, be careful, and never forget that knowledge is the only one power that cannot be taken from you." These lessons were interrupted by fits of rage. Tobias. The factory closed permanently. Benefits were not enough. He never hit son. Some taboo held his hand. But Eileen wore bruises that make-up couldn't hide. He looked to the north with unchildishly wise understanding. Love not enough. His mother loved her father once upon a time. Maybe she still loved. His father could even love them when drinking allowed him to feel something besides disappointment. But love without respect, without kindness, then it was, if not another chain. This discovery shaped it so that the echo will sound all your life. There was love, weakness. Love was pain. Love, it's watching your mother cry silently, thinking he's sleeping. Love is the father, stumbling, wandering home, smashing failure and cheap whiskey. There was power, real. Power was magic flowing through veins. Power was knowledge accumulated like treasure. Power was control over yourself and over time over others. It was during one of the wanderings that when summer reached its peak, he found a new place to train, a small, long-abandoned children's room site. He made the pebbles dance complex patterns, immersed in concentration, when he heard this laughter. Not that sharp, mocking laugh that he knew at school. No, this one was sonorous, sincere, and complete surprise. He froze. The pebbles fell to the ground. Someone found his secret place. Someone saw. But when he turned around, ready to run, he saw the girl is about his age, with fire-red hair that caught sunny hairlight is like copper. She looked at him, fallen stones, not with fear, not with disgust, but with admiration. When I looked up, there were myself an extraordinary green color that he's ever seen. "Do it again," she said, and smiled. In this the moment, although he didn't know it yet, life north of Snape split into 2 parts, before Lily and after Lily. Everything that it was before, suddenly it seemed like nothing prologue. That summer, when Lily Evans entered the life of Severus Snape, it was in summer when the gray world of the Spider's Dead End suddenly bloomed with colors. She was everything he wasn't, bright where he was dark, open where he was closed, beloved where it is simple they endured, and yet somehow, incredibly, she wanted to be his friend. At their second meeting, he told her, "You also a sorceress. I watched you. Flowers bloom when you are happy. Your sister's toy horse, you fixed it after she fixed it, broke it. You made her jump room." Any other child could scare the confession with a surveillance, but Lily Evans spent 9 years knowing that she, another, afraid that she is broken because of why the impossible are happening around her things. Hear someone give it the name magical, as if it was wonderful, not shameful. Liberation. Magical, she repeated, trying word. This is who I am. This is who we are. Thus began Lily's education, Evans, in the world of magic. Every day we met in secret places. I told her everything I told him mother, embellishing where his knowledge is they were meager, desperately wanting to save the amazement in her eyes. He explained about Hogwarts with the fervor of a believer, describing paradise, moving stairs, talking portraits, ghosts attending lessons, faculties becoming families, an ancient magic hat capable of look into the soul. Transfiguration lessons and charzel, pooking and protection, the whole world where being a wizard wasn't just accepted, but expected. Lily absorbed it all with a thirst equal to his own. She asked endless questions. On some he could answer, many no. What made someone a wizard? Why could they do things they didn't could others? Every question forced me, Severus, think deeper. In response, Lily shared her world. The Evans family was everything that the Snapes weren't. Cute, cozy, whole. Her father worked locally bank, and her mother ran a house that smelled of fresh bread. Her sister was Petunia, pretty and popular, and Lily herself, she was a beloved child. And yet she was unhappy, so it echoed Severus's own isolation. House to be another in a loving home, she explained. So constantly be afraid that you will disappoint the people who matter most. Petunia hates it, she admitted once. Magic. She used to like it when we were very little. She made her toys dance, and she laughed. But now she's looking at me, it's as if I have the word hanging between us, ugly and familiar. The echo heard good, but after hearing how it is applied to Lilla, he felt rage in the chest. You're not a freak, he said strong. You're special. She's just jealous because she's ordinary, and you know. This was the beginning of the model. Severus protects Lily from the world. Lily defends the world from Severus's harsh judgments. As the summer went, their friendship outgrew into something that neither of them had experienced before. For Severus, who never had a friend, every moment was a revelation. Simple the pleasure of having with whom to talk to, those who listen with the sincere interest of who is looking for his society, is intoxicated. He accumulated memories as treasures, that how Lily's nose wrinkles when she laughs, as she bites her lip concentrating. The exact shade of her hair varies in different lighting. For Lily, Severus personified freedom from suffocating normality. He was mysterious and tense, a bearer of knowledge about the world beyond her borders, dreams. His magic was stronger than hers, more controlled, but more than that, he understood her like no one else. She didn't have to pretend to be someone smaller. They practiced magic together. Severus taught Lily control exercises he had developed over the years. She was a capable student. Her natural power was directed through techniques that will make her good service. But the shadow of the future is already hanging over Nemi. The rooster's jealousy curled up active hostility. I followed them, spying on their magical practice, and what I saw confirmed her worst fears. Her sister, it was not just strange, but real, another part of the world that never he will take her in a cockerel. Confrontation happened on a stuffy August day. Severus and Lily practiced levitation with wildflowers when Petunia escaped from the bushes. I knew it, she squealed. You're freaks. You both do unnatural things. Magic is in anger, Severus burst out. Branch cracked over the head of the rooster, falling from enough force to leave a bruise. It was not intended, but there was damage applied. The rooster ran away in tears. I should have done this, she said quietly. Lily. Severus felt the first cold touch of fear that I'd disappointed her, that she would look at he like everyone else is like something else dangerous. But Lily's anger quickly passed, replaced by tired humility. He will tell Mom and Dad. They will forbid me see you. This thought was unbearable. Severus tried friendship. Accepting something dangerously close to happiness. To lose it would be worse than never having. But Lily already I planned. We will be more careful. Meet secretly. They can't keep an eye on it behind me every minute. So their friendship she went underground, leaking in stolen goods moments and secret places. It added an exciting shade of danger to their meetings, but also the severity of secrecy. The tension manifested itself in different ways. Lily's relationship with Petunia soured finally. Severus's home life it worsened because his father noticed him frequent absence and suspicious happiness. Got himself a girlfriend. Probum called Tobias one evening, blocking the path to the stairs. You think too good for us now? Severus, he was silent, having learned that there were only words fueling father's rage. Just like yours mother. You always think you're better. Well, let me tell you something, boy. You nothing. Can you hear me? Nothing. And whoever there was this girl, she will soon understand this. The words buried deep, finding each uncertainty and fear. Isn't it the father right? Someone like Lily, bright, beautiful, beloved, could be found in someone like him? He was poor and ugly, strange. His hair was always there, fatty. His clothes were always there, worn. He is not. With these doubts he shared, especially with Lily. Instead, he wrapped them around him like armor, allowing them to fuel his determination, be worthy of her friendship. He studied harder, bringing magical abilities to the limit. He remembered everything that was his mother she talked about, the magical world. He will a guide that is needed to the defenders she deserves. As both children approached autumn, they felt changes in the air. Severus was supposed to be in January, turn 11, Lily several weeks later. Letters from Hogwarts will arrive soon. They will leave this gray world behind. But new ones gnawed at him secretly, fears that if the magical world condemns, it is as harsh as Moglovsky. What if Lily finds better friends? What if Hogwarts becomes where will their friendship end? He couldn't know what his fears were at the same time unfounded and prophetically accurate. Hogwarts will really change everything, but not the way he imagined it. First, the leaves began to yellow. When they turned, Spider, an owl, has arrived at the dead end. Eileen Snape took it, writing with trembling hands. She was on her face a mixture of pride and sadness. Her son is going to Hogwarts. He will have chances that she squandered. He will leave her behind in this gray prison. Severus held heavy parchment with reverence, reading and rereading words. He was a wizard. He was needed. He belonged to something outside of these narrow streets. His first thought was to tell Lily. When he came to meeting point, she was already there, squeezing an identical envelope. Her face shone joy. It's true, she exhaled. That's all true. They read letters together, admiring the equipment lists and textbooks, guessing about the distribution by faculty. For several precious moments, the future was nothing more than light and opportunity. They will go to Hogwarts together. Nothing could separate them now. If only one of them knew how much this confidence was naive. The following weeks were spent in preparation and anticipation. The North was accompanied by the Evans family in a Scythe lane. His mother was too ashamed of her fallen status to show face in magical society. Magical shopping district was all he meant I dreamed of. More stores selling impossible things, wizards in robes walking openly, magic sparkling in the air itself. He watched Lily's face when she was going through all this for the first time, feeling possessive pride. When they bought his wands made of black wood and heart of dragon,
his willow and the pen of the phoenix, he felt that the maturity of their friendship confirmed by magic itself. The reaction of Petunia was volcanic. She was furious and begged, wrote letters to the school, took out her disappointment on Lily with growing anger. Evan's parents, stunned, tried to keep the peace, preparing to send the younger child to a world they couldn't enter. Severus observed with mixed feelings. Part of it was gloomy satisfied with the jealousy of Petunia. It was proof that the magical world is superior to the ordinary one. But he also saw it hurt Lily, how she muffled her excitement and began build walls between parts of her own life. On the last night before departure, they met on the playground where it all started. The swings creaked on September wind. "Promise me," Lily said suddenly, "that we will remain friends, even if we're on different faculties, even if this will always change," answered without hesitation Severus. It was the easiest promise he could be someone other than her friend. The next morning turned out to be fresh and clear. Severus left the spider dead end, the only shabby chest. Nobody didn't see him off. My father slept after binge drinking. My mother was too broken to encounter a reminder of your old life. But none of this had values, because Lily was waiting at platform 9 3/4. Her hair was like a flame in the morning sun, her smile bright enough to drive away any shadow. Together they boarded the Hogwarts train. Together they found an empty compartment, and we got a job on the road. Together they pressed their faces to the window when London changed to rural areas, when the familiar became alien and wonderful. Big Hogwarts Hall was grander than even Severus's deepest fantasies could have predicted. Thousands of candles were floating in the air, casting warm light on 4 long tables. The enchanted ceiling showed the night sky in perfect clarity. The stars rotated overhead. This was magic revealed with my own eyes, relaxed and magnificent. For a moment, even its carefully built defenses could not hide amazement on his face. Next to Lily, she briefly squeezed his hand, a fleeting touch that sent warmth his whole body. "It's real," she whispered, echoing her words. Song distributing hats. Soaped up the nervous freshman. An ancient word that speaks of the founders and faculties, assessed qualities, and deep divisions. Severus listened with intense concentration, cataloging information, analyzing consequences. Gryffindor for the brave, Pudafine for the faithful, Coctavlon for the wise, Slytherin for the ambitious. He knew where his place was. He had known it since then, poor how his mother first told him about the faculties, with special pride in voice, when I talked about Slytherin. But watching for Lily, he felt the first tremor uncertainty. She was braver than he. She had their loyalty to Pudafine, intelligence as Tibron. Where will the hat fit it, and will it fit it she with him? Distribution began. Names were called in alphabetical order. Black, Sirius, a handsome boy with aristocratic posture, moved forward. The hat barely touched his head before Kaus shouted, "Gryffindor." Slytherin table hissed with disapproval. Everyone knew that Bleks were designed for Slytherin. Evans, Lily. Too soon Lily was moving forward. She seemed small under the ancient hat, but her back was straight. The hat fell on her eyes, and the audience waited in silence. Finally, Gryffindor. Lily took off her hat. Her face, it glowed with happiness. She caught his eye, Severus, heading towards his new faculty, offering a weak the smile that should have been calming, but he felt how something cold settled in his stomach. More names. Lupin, Remus, the scarred boy from the train, ended up in Gryffindor. Pettigrew, Peter, a little nervous boy, too Gryffindor. Potter, James, a boy with shredded hair and round glasses, almost jumped to the stool. Again Gryffindor. By the time they called Severus, he already knew his fate.
Helplessness. Every learned protective the spell was a wall between him and father's rage. but precisely in the darker ones the corners of Severus' magic are indeed succeeded. Eyes causing discomfort, potions, nightmares causing, enchantments revealing secrets. Knowledge was power, and power was survival. His friendship with Lily turned into a difficult dance of the schedule and loyalty to the faculty. They met in the library, supposedly to study, but on really just to talk. We found empty classrooms where we could practice spells. They walked around territories, exploring secrets to gather castle. But now everything was different. Lily came with stories about Gryffindor Tower, about laughter in the living room. She spoke lovingly about her neighbors, about Remus, who was so smart and kind, about James Potter and Sirius Black. They were violators, but funny. Each history was a little betrayal, proof that she builds a life that doesn't include it. Severus answered with his own detachment, vaguely speaking about Slytherin cases, about advanced ones' texts, about senior students who taught him things outside the program. He's not could tell her about the growing pressure, choosing a party and domestic policy faculty. First real conflict happened in November, during class potions. They cooked a simple potion, forgetfulness, and Severus finished his perfect in half the time. He helped Lily adjust the fire when James Potter cast his voice. "Careful, Evans, I wouldn't want to be due to the snake. They always collect debts." Class quieted down. Hand Severus's burned herself on a stirrer. "Don't contact me attention to him," Lily whispered. "Yes, don't pay attention to me," Potter continued, encouraged by laughter friends. "Just like you should ignore Nininius. He probably doesn't even wash his cauldron." Nickname it hit like a physical blow. Nininius. In one cruel moment, Potter's weakness, poverty, which meant rare, decent one's hair, potions, shabby robes, and turned her into a weapon. Severus's wand ended up in his hand before he decided to get her out. The curse was on lips, but Lily's hand on his shoulder stopped him. "No need. That's all you have to do. You'll get into trouble. He's not that worth it." But looking at her face, Severus saw something worse than anger. He saw pity. She felt sorry for him, for that they laughed at him because he was too poor, for needing her protection. It was unbearable. Incidents set the dynamics that will be play out again and again. Potter, Severus as a victim, Lily as reluctant peacemaker. In the third year, the situation escalated. North suspected that Remus Lupin is negotiable. Its monthly diseases are always full moon scars, then how teachers found excuses. Later, he expressed his suspicions to Lily. She froze. "It's ridiculous. Think about it. He's sick every month, always full moon, these scars. So what if even this is so?" Her voice was dangerously quiet. "He's a dark creature of Lily, dangerous to normal students. He shouldn't be here." "Normal students? You mean you, a boy who spends time studying a curse to cause pain? Boy which names my friends dirtbloods when he thinks I'm not listening? I don't. Yes, you do. And I heard you with Malciber and Avery. I saw the books you read, spells you practice. You talk about dark creatures, but you yourself, you become dark, Severus." Sora was theirs worst at that time. Years of accumulated grievances spilled out. Severus accused her of the fact that she chooses Gryffindor friends instead. She objected to his growing cruelty, his connections with future Death Eaters. We talked for 3 weeks. Exactly this one period, Severus made a fatal discovery.
Following the marauders one night, he saw them secretly getting out castle. He followed the Rattlesnake Way, where they seemed to disappear into the hidden passage. For weeks he watched their schemes, noting the correlation with full moons. His suspicion about Lupin grew into confidence, but more to go, he felt the opportunity. If he will be able to prove that the looters they covered the werewolf, helping him illegal to transform, they will excluded. His tormentors will disappear. The trap was set by Sirius Black. Overhearing leading questions from Severus, Black casually mentioned the secret of Rattlesnake, knowing that Severus's curiosity will do the rest. On the night of the next full moon, Severus made his way to the tree. He pressed the knot, slid into the aisle, and followed him. He turned out to be facing a person with a completely transformed werewolf, yellow eyes, crazy from hunger, claws extended to prey. He would die there, torn to pieces, if James Potter, his tormentor, his enemy, he didn't burst into the aisle and didn't pull him back. Severus, back, risking his own life. They fell out of the aisle like once at the moment when the werewolf's claws, they cut through the air where Severus stood. The consequences were a confusion of screams and accusations. Dumbledore himself intervened, taking Severus' oaths to keep the secret of Remus Lupin's condition. Black received punishment, but no real. Potter was praised as a hero for saving him, and Severus was left with the bitter knowledge that he owes his life to someone he hated. "He saved your life," Lily said when she finally drove him into a corner. "James risked everything. He saved your friend. If I died, Lupin would executed. Black would have been expelled. He defended them, not me. What difference does it make? Why you alive thanks to him? I'd prefer die than owe him something. What happened to you, Sev? When you become so full of hate?" He wanted to say that it happened slowly, like poison. Every mockery, every evil eye, every reminder that he does not belong, added another drop. But also his own choice. Every learned dark spell, each cruel word spoken. Fourth year saw the division strengthen. Severus completely accepted his identity of a dark prodigy arts, surrounding himself with like-minded people from Slytherin who reverently talked about a rising Dark Lord. He corresponded with senior students who graduated school and joined to the point. His appearance deteriorated, so how he devoted every minute to studying. His hair had become longer and saltier, skin paler from hours in dungeons and libraries. He cultivated an aura of threat that held the younger students at a distance. Lily became more and more beautiful each year. Her magical talents flourished. Half the boys at school were in love with her, including James Potter. Potter's courtship was arrogant. He asked her out publicly. She rejected her repeatedly, but Severus saw confusion in her expressions. It was only a matter of time. Severus watched as Potter changed, showing glimpses of genuine leadership and nobility. He still cursed Severus, but stopped targeting random students. He grew up, becoming a man who Lily could respect and even love. He started cooking his own potions design, improving recipes from textbooks, creating new combinations. He invented spells that will come later, classified as dark magic, writing them in the margins of his textbook, Advanced Potions, Sectum Sumpra. He wrote next to a particularly evil creation for enemies. The 5th year arrived with the weight of OWL exams. For Severus, this also brought intensity to studies that bordered on obsession. He haunted the library like a ghost. His fingers were stained with ink, and the eyes the reading of greening red more than an object. It was a form of arts where he could exercise full control. "Wonderful, my boy," exclaimed the tear-showering one day, learning the perfect drink of living death Severus. "I've never seen that a student achieved this effect. How did you succeed?" Severus did not mention hours of experimentation with alternative techniques, the opening that this crushing flat releases Drimino's beans, more juice than slicing. These were his secrets, recorded in the textbook, along with dark spells. His reputation in Slytherin was strengthened in something approaching respect, fear-stained. Junior students, they ran away as he rushed through the living room. Supporters of Death Eaters, they considered him one of their own. He listened more than he said, realizing that knowledge.
James Potter's courtship of Lily, they strengthened, although she continued to reject his. "He's an arrogant idiot," she complained to her friends within audibility of Severus. "Curses people for fun. He brags at each one opportunities." But Severus noticed how her eyes looked. "We stayed on Potera during matches, according to Quidditch. A reluctant smile when he performed spectacular stunts. Potter changed, showing glimpses of a person which he could become by protecting the younger ones, students, in a bravely shown manner. Everything Severus wasn't. It was a warm June when everything reached apogee. Soph's exams were in full swing. Severus just finished theoretical examination on protection, confident in excellent grades. He settled down under a beech tree by the lake to view notes, trying to ignore the Gryffindor group nearby. The Marauders were there. Potter's stolen snitch. Black fell apart from deliberate negligence. Lupin read. Pettigrew watched. But what Nunius raised Potter's voice? Severus's hand reached out to the stick, but it was too slow. Before he could get her out, he was already hung upside down in the air. His robes, they fell on their heads, opening the obese underpants and skinny, pale legs. Laughter, who escaped from the gathering half, was like acid. "Who wants to see how I'll take off Nunius's pants?" Loud Potter asked, playing to the audience. The humiliation was complete. Not only physical nudity, but also complete helplessness of reducing all his knowledge to zero. Students gathered, indicated, they laughed. Some looked embarrassed, but not enough to intervene. Through the roar in Severus's ears, I heard a wonderfully familiar voice. "Let him go." Lily has arrived. Her face split out of anger. The wand was already in her hand. For a moment, Severus felt a tide of hopes, but Nadezhda quickly soured into fresh humiliation. To be saved by her before it was almost worse for everyone than that initial attack. "Evans, no make me purse you," he said. Potter, although he assumed that he would prefer to do anything except that. Potter then let him go, and Severus fell to the ground in a pile limbs and robes. When he got up, the wand finally ended up in the hand. The crowd tensed, but before he could act, Lily stood between him and the Marauders. And at that moment, Severus made the biggest mistake of my life. Humiliation, anger, disappointed love, and wounded pride crystallized into one poisonous moment. "I don't need help from the little one's dirty blood like her." Words seemed to hang in the air like a curse, visible and irreversible. The crowd fell silent. Even Potter looked shocked. But no one looked more stunned than Lily, who slowly turned back. Her face turned pale. "Great," she said. Her voice was firm, but the eyes sparkled from the unspilled tears. "I won't worry in the future, and I would wash my pants if was you, Nunius." She walked high-raised head, but Severus saw how her hands were shaking. His world narrowed down to the point of view, Lily's retreating back, to the knowledge that he just destroyed the only one good thing in his life with two in words. Later, he waited for hours at the entrance to Gryffindor's living room. When it finally appeared, he was ready to apologize and explanations, desperate pleas. "Sorry, Lily, I'm so sorry.
I didn't have this is what I mean. I was angry." "I know for sure who you were," she interrupted. Her voice was cold as he never has heard. "You chose your path. I chose yours." "No, listen, I wasn't going to call you a dirty girl, but you call everyone my origin mudbloods." "Severus, why should I be an exception?" The truth of this hit him like a blow. She was right. He adopted his own language, faculty comrades, relaxed fanaticism that marked someone as yours. He told himself it was nothing, doesn't mean they're just words. But words had power, and those words had power to destroy. "You're my best friend, Lily, my only friend. Please." "I've been finding an excuse for you for years. Your friends are Death Eaters in the process, training. You were fascinated by the dark arts. You call my people of origin this terrible name, and the worst thing is that you don't even see what's wrong with that." I see it now. I'll change." "Too late, Severus. I can't keep watching how you become something terrible. I can't keep pretending that the boy I grew up with is still somewhere there when he is clearly not there." She turned, then stopped. "You know what's the saddest thing? You're brilliant. You could be anything, do whatever you will, but you are so full of hatred and bitterness that you are going to spend all this for revenge and dark magic." Then she left, and Severus was left alone in the corridor with the wreckage of your life. He named her an unforgivable word, the one that reduced her to less than a person. He chose to belong to those who will never truly accept it, instead of friendship with the only person who saw him the way he was. That night, he lay awake, playing the scene again and again. Each iteration found new depths of self-hatred. He thought about all the points that led to this. Every dark spell learned, every cruel word spoken, every compromise made in the name of strength. He built his own prison, brick by brick. The remaining weeks of suffering passed in a fog. Lily didn't talk to him, didn't even look. The marauders, perhaps feeling his full defeat, left him alone. Even the Slytherin comrades pulled away, as if his self-destruction was contagious. He rushed to study with a new despair, received excellent all-owls except divination and history magic. But the triumph seemed empty. What a good or perfect scores when he failed the only test that really mattered. During his train trip home, he caught his last glimpse. She sat with her friends. Sunlight turned her hair in flames. She laughed. That whole face glowed with joy. And Severus understood the crushing finality that she is happier without him. He was a shadow on its brightness, a weight pulling her down. When the 9.34 platform appeared, the North caught a glimpse of red hair. For a moment, their eyes met. Lily smiled weakly, sadly, and waved. He answered in kind, wondering if this is what it means to grow up. Observe how the distance between people is getting wider. No matter how desperate we tried to hold on, the hat placed them in different departments, but the real distribution took place every day in 1,000 small elections. And with each choice, the path back to that one playground in Cokeworth where two magical children found a miracle in each other became increasingly difficult to find. Worst of all was something that somewhere in that part of his own heart he could never kill completely. He still loved her. He will always love her. And this love will be both his greatest weakness and, perhaps, his only chance for redemption. Summer after a catastrophic 1/5 year dragged on endlessly. Severus returned to the Spider's dead end to discover that the father's drunk had gotten worse, and his mother almost completely withdrew into herself. The house seemed smaller, dirtier, more suffocating after the greatness he had spent. He spent his days in a feverish state of studying, promoting magical knowledge on increasingly darker territories.
Field's textbooks were filled with original spells, each as more evil than the previous. Sectum Sempra was improved and tested on the rats he caught in the basement, observing from a clinical detachment how invisible swords split fur and flesh. A letter arrived in late July, delivered by a figure in dark robes. Lucius Malfoy stood in their wretched living room like a prince visiting peasants, but his gray eyes melted respect. There are those who noticed your talents, your innovations in earth-making, your creative approach to protective magic. The slight emphasis on protective clearly gave to understand that he knew exactly which spells were created by Severus. On the next week, there will be a meeting. Selected people who understand that the magical world stands at a crossroads. I thought you might be interested to attend. Everyone had an invitation, what Severus worked for, but now he hesitated. It was a trait that once crossing, it was never possible go back. But what was he supposed to lose? Lily left. Hogwarts promised nothing except ridicule. I'm interested, he said. Coordinates led to a mansion. Inside, he found a meeting, about 30 witches and wizards. And at the center of everything, he, Lord Voldemort, not at all the way he imagined him, Severus, beautiful, cold, with dark eyes that seemed to see through flesh and bone, the soul itself. But
there were others kneeling around dedicated recent graduates, the Hogwardian, the older witches and wizards, attracted by a promise of power or pushed by despair. Voldemort, he moved among them like a snake in the grass. The presence was both terrible and magnetic. When he reached Severus, his eyes pierced him from surgical precision. "Severus Snape," he said softly, you come to me with such interesting one's contradictions, glitter and bitterness, strength and poverty, love and hatred. Tell me, what are you looking for in my ministry at Self-Del? The question was a test. Others they made speeches about the purity of blood and the superiority of wizards. But Voldemort had already seen his mind. Here only honesty will serve. I'm looking, Severus replied, to make a difference. A cold smile touched my lipless mouth. Voldemort matter, yes, be more than an unwanted half-breed with the wrong side of the city. Show them everyone, purebreds, who condescended to muggles, who despised, girls which rejected. You are looking to have meaning, and in my ministry you will be. He pressed his wand against his outstretched arm, Severus, and pain that does not give in description flooded it. The very essence of his being was noted, and it is stated, the skull and the snake burned themselves out. His flesh, and deeper in himself, magic core. When it's all over, Severus looked at the mark squirming on his pale skin and felt a complex mixture of triumph and disgust. He did it. He belonged. He was Death Eater. Spider-Boy, the dead end, turned into someone who had meaning. Why then did he feel yourself so empty? Subsequent months were a dark entity in reality Voldemort's revolutions. Severus expected that he will be valued for his skills potions. Perhaps they will put you to cook complex drinks. Instead, he found himself part of raids that they became more and more cruel. His knowledge of the Muggle districts made him useful for planning attacks. The curses that were invented turned out to be destructive, effective in battle. His youth and unknown status allowed he could move in places where they couldn't go, dreamy Death Eaters. He told himself that the violence was necessary, part of the revolution. Muggly, those who died, were victims of war. The wizards who resisted were traitors. Fear spreading across Britain, it was Labour battle's new order. But late at night, when he was returning to Spider's dead end, covered smoke and something worse, excuses sounded empty.
He was sitting in his nursery room and was surprised how he left like that, far from the boy who forced flowers dance for a red-haired smile girls. His mother knew who he had become. She never said anything directly, but her eyes expressed grief deeper than words when she looked at him covered left hand. The work became darker to the extent to which Voldemort's strength grows, that it started as targeted strikes and turned in the company of terror. To the north he became an expert in extracting information. His knowledge of ligaliment combined with serums really made him priceless for interrogations. He learned to turn off those parts of yourself that recoiled from causing pain. Activity reports, the Order of the Phoenix, often included mentions familiar names. The Potters were active members, fighting against everything Severus vowed to serve, and it always was mention of Lily Potter, born Evans, a brilliant witch and a furious one, opponent of the dark arts. She left Mary Potter. The news felt like Sectum Sempra facing inward. His enemy childhood was taken by his childhood love, and now they stood together against him. The irony was painful. He started drinking fire whiskey to blur memories, dreamless sleep potion to avoid nightmares where green eyes looked at him with disgust. Exactly during a raid in the fall of 1979, everything changed. This year, they attacked a shelter suspected of harboring members of the Order. Severus was part of Advance Group. His role was disabling protective spells. While he worked, he heard voices inside. Familiar voices. "We must again move," said the male voice, James Potter. "Fidelius's spell would be safer. We can't continue run, James." And it was Lily. "Except to go, Dumbledore says these protections enough, but with a child on the way. Child." The word struck Severus as a physical blow. Lily was pregnant. The girl he loved wore the child of his enemy, built a life and family while he was ruining lives in the service darkness. He should have called others, complete the mission. Instead, he discovered that he was strengthening the spell instead of break them, adding protection which will give the inhabitants time to escape. When the other eaters arrived, he explained that the spell was too strong for them. "We need to retreat." Voldemort was dissatisfied but unsuspicious. North created a reputation of competence which one failure could not shake. But there's something inside. The fundamental had shifted. Livy's image, pregnant and in danger from people like him, it broke his heart around him. He began to pay closely attention to the movement of the Order, tracking her, ensuring she's not located in places designated for attacks. It was a dangerous game, but he became skilled in dangerous games. War worsened in 1980. The Order became bolder, Death Eaters more cruel. Severus rose in rank. His potions and strategic mind made him priceless. Voldemort began to include him in inner circle meetings where he became the true scale of the Dark's ambitions is clear. It was not about raising the family wizards. It was about pure power and simple. With Voldemort as immortal ruler of the world, remade in his image. Doubts that Severus suppressed became stronger. He joined for belonging, for the sake of the goal, for the sake of power. But what he found was slavery, cruelty, and a master who looked at his own followers as tools. The rhetoric of purity of blood was a lie. Himself, Voldemort, was a half-breed. The promise of a better world was propaganda. But what he could do, it tied him up, aptly. Betrayal meant death. Who would believe him if he tried desert? He was a famous Death Eater, responsible for terrible things. So he continued, hating himself more every day, finding refuge in baffles, alcohol, and small riots. Of warned targets, he told himself that he was waiting for the right moment. He was actually a coward, too scared to act. Everything changed on a cold night at the end 1980. Voldemort called him to a private meeting, a rare honor that filled North with fear. These personal audiences usually meant special tasks. "Severus," said Voldemort, with a gesture inviting him to sit, "I have a task which requires your special talents. In Hogwarts has a vacancy for a potion master. I want you to apply." "You want me to spy on Dumbledore?" "Among other things, but above all, I want you to be in a position to recruit. These children are the future. Your youth will be an advantage." Severus nodded. His mind worked out the consequences. Return to Hogwarts meant being close to memories, but also distance from the worst actions of the Eaters. "There's something else. I'm sending you to Boar's Head tomorrow night. Dumbledore conducts an interview there with another candidate, some seer. I want to know what kind of person he is considering. Observe and report." It seemed like a simple task. Severus arrived in Boar's Head under his disguises, charming, positioned so that he could hear the interview. Sibylla, woman Trelawney, was indeed a fraud, speaking in dramatic tones. Dumbledore seemed politely skeptical, but then Trelawney's voice suddenly changed, becoming deep and otherworldly, a real prophecy, unmistakable. Severus leaned closer, straining to hear every word. "That one is coming, who has the power to defeat the Dark Lord, born of those who threw to him 3 challenges, born at the end of the 7th month. His blood turned to ice." A prophecy about Voldemort's defeat. He should have heard more. A hand fell on his shoulder. Aberforth Dumbledore found him. In the struggle, Severus heard only fragments. They will mark him as equal to himself, and the power that the Dark Lord does not know before he is thrown out. But he heard enough. He immediately reported to Voldemort, retelling partial prophecy with perfect accuracy. The Dark Lord's red eyes, they flared up with terrible interest. "Born at the end of the 7th month, those who challenged me 3 times. It's really valuable. Severus, you did well." Severus accepted the praise with a bow, but inside, a restlessness crept on him. Something seemed in it sinister, but he put that feeling aside. He'd done his duty, nothing more. The terrible truth reached him through several weeks. Voldemort in
Tension as the moment before impact lightning. He was a spy for Dumbledore almost a year, walking along an impossible line between Death Eater and member of the Order. Every piece of information I passed it on to Dumbledore. It was a risk. Each meeting Voldemort, a dance on the edge of revelations. But he managed, driven by despair, the need to protect Lily. The Potters are gone for cover after Dumbledore warned them about the prophecy. Spell Fidelius was indestructible as long as the Guardian's secrets remained true. Sirius Black, James' best friend, even through his hatred of the North, knew that they were in security. They should have been safe. The call came like ice through the veins. Dark Mark burned with the urgency he had rarely felt. Celebration, not call to arms. Something happened, something significant. He barely had a time to send his Patronus to Dumbledore, the Silver Doe, which she sped away with desperate grace before he had to answer the challenge. A delay would have aroused suspicion. Place the gathering was chaos. Death Eaters they celebrated, and the masks were dropped euphoria. The wine flowed like a river, and screams of triumph filled the air. Stomach Severus turned into lead before the way he heard the words, "Potters, dead." The Dark Lord performed prophecy. The world has tilted. All the sounds had become distant, muted, as if he was under water. Someone stuck it in his hand, a cup, slammed on the back. He must be answered accordingly, because no one noticed that he drowned in full view of everyone. Both,
he heard your question. The voice was only smooth thanks to Clementia, traitor to the blood, and his wife is a dirty-blooded girl. Yes, although something estranged happened to the boy. Body, the Dark Lord, was destroyed, but of course he will come back. He defeated herself, death. Harry's boy is alive, which meant that Lily is dead. Words didn't processed, could not be processed. She couldn't be dead. He did everything. He sacrificed everything, betrayed everything to keep her safe. Dumbledore promised. Fidelius's spell was indestructible, except for betrayal from within. The rest of the meeting went like a fog. North played his role, faithful Death Eater, concerned the disappearance of their master. Inside he screamed, died, broke into pieces too small ever to collect them again. When he finally could escape, he did not transgress Hogwarts and into Godric's depression. House it stood partially destroyed. Roof on one side was demolished. Dark mark faded above him. The Aurors came and went, leaving only the warning tape and silence. Severus slipped past barriers with the usual lightness, movable coercion. The living room showed signs of struggle. James's body was removed, but the outline remains. Staircase it creaked when he climbed each one step. He knew what he would find. He knew, and he couldn't stop so as not to look. Door to the nursery hung on hinges. Fun inside the yellow walls were scorched, and there were toys scattered. And there, in front of the crib, she lay as if from the floor. Green eyes closed, red hair scattered on the floor like spilled wine. Even in death she was wonderful. No visible wounds. The killing curse left no trace, only absence where life was. Severus fell to his knees nearby, holding trembling hands, but unable to touch. Touching would mean doing it real. He tried to save hers, but trying was not enough. He delivered prophecy. He trusted Dumbledore. He believed that he could protect it from the consequences of his choice. Sound from the cribs made him look up. Harry was there, sat quietly. Bright scar, the sight of lightning on the forehead, but otherwise unharmed. These eyes, Lily's eyes, watched north, from the baby, seriously. The boy who survived after the killing curse. The reason by whom Lily was dead. She died instead to step aside. Hate and whines struggled in Severus's chest. Son James Potter, who will grow up probably arrogant like his father, but also Lily's son, with her eyes and possibly her heart. Steps on the stairs. Dumbledore appeared at the door, looking older than Severus ever saw him. You said you would save him in security. The words came out raw, bleeding. You promised. I couldn't. No excuses, just a confession of catastrophic failure. Guardian, he betrayed them in secret. He killed her. Voice Severus was strange, distant. Voldemort offered to spare her. I asked him. I begged him. She could live if only I had stepped aside. That choice, Dumbledore said quietly. That's why Voldemort disappeared. Her victim created a defense he couldn't break through. Harry survived because Lily died for him. Lily's love, the power that the Dark Lord doesn't know what will happen to the boy. He will go to his aunt, to his sister Lilla, Petunia. She may hate him, but blood protection will keep him safe. Lily's victim flows through her sister's veins, however diluted it may be. Severus stood up slowly. He looked at Lily for the last time, remembering the eyes, although he knew that it would haunt him forever. then turned to Dumbledore, and there was something in his eyes that forced the old wizard to retreat. "I'll do whatever you ask. I will protect the boy, spy for you, play whatever role you need. But you know this, I do this for her, only for her, because I let her down during life, and that's all I have left. Give it to her after death." They left the destroyed house. Severus didn't look around, because he knew that if he looks around, he will never leave. Outside, the world continued to live as if nothing changed. People celebrated defeat of Voldemort, sparking into the sky, making toasts to Harry Potter, the boy who survived. Nobody knew true price. Nobody understood that a woman's love saved them all, that her sacrifice will echo through the years. Nobody knew that a man in the dungeon will spend the rest of his life atoning a betrayal that is never possible to forgive. Years of repentance began. From the gray streets of Spider Dead End to the ancient Hogwarts stones, from childhood friendship to adult sacrifice, the way north Snape was neither simple nor direct. He was a man of contradictions, brilliant but bitter, powerful but powerless, cruel in his actions but motivated by the deepest love. His story teaches us that redemption is possible, even for those who walked the most in the dark ways, that our choice determines us more than our circumstances, that love, true love, transcends even death itself. Snape chose darkness for many years, but when it was more important of all, he chose love. That choice, that one moment when he put someone else's life above his desires, and he set in motion atonement that the magical world will save you. After all, when the last truth was revealed through the silvery memories of Pondry the Memory, the world learned what we discovered today, that Snape, the North, perhaps the bravest man in history full of heroes, not because he was without fear, but because he faced his fears every day, not because he was without flaws, but therefore that he spent his life redeeming his disadvantages. Even in our darkest moments, we have the power to choose. We can choose bitterness or forgiveness, hatred or love, darkness or light. The story of Severus Snape is a reminder that we are more than our worst moments, more than our greatest failures. We are the sum of all our choices, and while we breathe, we have the power to choose differently, to choose better, to choose love. Somewhere in the spaces between memory and sleep, between what was and what could be, a little boy with dark hair makes flowers dance for girls with green eyes. And this moment is beautiful. Hogwarts dungeons